In this episode of Different Dadpreneurs, I sit down with Dr. Rory Gibbons, a naturopathic doctor, dad of three, and a guy who gets what it's like building a business with kids. He also gets it from the inside out, but he specializes in working with high performing dads, many of whom are small business owners and entrepreneurs. We get into why so many dads feel tired all the time, even the guys that are really fit. We talk about the sneaky health issues that nobody's talking about and that might not be addressed by a GP. We talk about what it means to adapt to stress versus just managing it and the impact that that has on the results patients are getting as they reframe what stress is for them. We touch on how time spent with kids impacts their behavior and explore the impact and difficulty that comes with giving ourselves permission not to work. If you're in a season of demands business-wise and with kids, your energy's low and you're trying to show up better, this is a great episode. Hope you join me. Thanks for diving in. Let's just dive into who are you? What do you do? How many kids do you have?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I am Dr. Rory Gibbons. I am a naturopathic doctor with a focus in men's wellness, more specifically dads of young kids. I see dads of all ages, but I see a lot of dads of young kids in my practice. And I have 3 young kids of my own, of 6.5, 4, and 1. So we have a busy household, and they're all boys.
No kidding. And we were talking about how just before we started recording that some of the chaos in the house and you're actually in your son's bedroom right now, which is just like very on brand for dadpreneurs.
Yeah, for sure. As a lot of your listeners know, we need to be able to adjust because you never really know what's coming down the pipe when you have young kids.
Yeah.
So I found a comfortable spot on the floor, and we are going to record this but the most important part is like you said, like the content that we're talking about. I'm excited to talk to you about some stuff today.
For people that maybe aren't 100% clear on naturopathic medicine, can you describe that a little bit, maybe differentiate it from maybe more common medicine that people would be interacting with?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a great question. Naturopathic doctors versus a medical doctor is often a conversation I have with patients, and it's going to vary based on where you live. So in British Columbia, in Canada, we have an amazing scope of practice where I can function as a family doctor if I need to. So I'm able to run blood work. I'm able to prescribe drugs or most drugs. But I also have a lot of training in lifestyle and diet medicine. So, learning about what people are eating and making adjustments there to help them, improve themselves to reach their goals. And then also I do a lot of lifestyle medicine, things like stress adaptation, stress management, even some relationship stuff, lots of counseling in my practice. And honestly, a lot of exercise prescription. So, when you go see your family doctor in Canada, at least, you don't have much time with them. And being a naturopathic doctor, I definitely have time for my patients. And so seeing my patients for at least 30 minutes per time, and up to an hour. And so we can cover a lot of ground in that time. And a few other things that are important to think about when comparing these two is kind of the approach that naturopathic doctors take versus the approach that GPs take or general practitioners take. And we look at the person as a whole. And so we ask questions and dive into all aspects of their life because we know that, everything is connected, like our mind and our body are connected. And the other part is we take a big focus on prevention and preventative medicine. And so we're trying to, pick up on clues and trends to help our patients avoid developing chronic disease like diabetes, cardiovascular disease, those types of chronic diseases too. And so on that note, I'm just scratching the surface, but this is kind of how I operate and what I see. There are some doctors out there that are more specific with, autoimmune diseases and genetic diseases, and some that just do aesthetic medicine like Botox and fillers, and some that just do, joint injections. And so our scope is very broad, but that's That's kind of how I would describe it to a patient.
Yeah.
Mhm.
On that vein, what are some of the common things that guys come to you for, that maybe some of the questions that they're asking? Actually, even before that, how do people come to find you? Because I think when we spoke before, it's not always a guy just reaching out directly to you.
Mhm.
There's often another person involved. I'd be curious to like get your take on, yeah, what that dynamic is like, and your with your specific patients.
Yeah, for sure. So, as history has told us, men are less likely to go seek help from doctors. Okay, it's becoming more common, which is great, but we are less likely to go and seek help. And so the partners are really a big player in getting men to come and see me. And so a really common story that I hear is my wife told me to go to the doctor, and my doctor said that I have this issue and I need to go on this medication. I don't want to go to medication, so my wife found you. And so that's a very common conversation that I have. And so the partners have a big influence on the men that I'm seeing. In my practice, I see a lot of the spouses of my wife's patients who's just she just sees moms. And so that's been a really quite an interesting marketing journey, is understanding where to point the information and point at the target, right? I see it like a lot of guys will come to me with like searching for a second opinion. That's
Hmm.
another one. Yeah. They'll see their GP or and then not like their answer, and then they'll come search for an alternative option, and then they land in my office, which is
Yeah.
really great because like oftentimes there are alternative options, but they didn't have time to have that explained to them, or the doctor doesn't really believe that there are other options.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And what are some of the kind of common themes with what guys are struggling with or they're wanting help on?
Yeah, so some of the common themes there that I'm seeing is definitely low energy, like low energy in the afternoon, like burnout kind of feelings, like like
Who are these guys?
oh, these guys that are coming to see me are they're either new dads or they're dads of young kids that have a job or own a business that takes a lot of time and a lot of energy and like mental effort, which leaves them like drained by the end of the day, either physically or mentally or both. And then they get home and then they start their evening or afternoon with their kids and they're just like depleted. And so what we work on is like, how do we get that back? How do we get that energy back? And so you can show up for your kids and like spend time with them and your spouse. And it's shockingly common that this is happening. The other thing that's showing up in my practice is actually like sexual dysfunction in 30s and 40s and 50s. And it's like, that shouldn't be happening yet. Like, I mean, it shouldn't be happening at all, but like inability to achieve erections or in your libido's decreased, you're in your early 30s, like that's not supposed to happen, but it's a result of this chronic overwhelm leading to, mental illness, but also sexual dysfunction too. It's wild. So a lot of fatigue, a lot of like anxiety, depression, and sexual dysfunction as well. Mhm.
Yeah. Um, and what are some of the like we'll get into more of your story, but we'll just focus on this
Mhm.
for now with these guys because I'm sure there's guys listening like, yeah, I tend to be tired. I'm overwhelmed. I've been there, especially with young kids. There's a lack of sleep. So
Mhm.
there's just some functions of stage of parenting that I think maybe like connects to this. Um, what are some of the big levers that you pull on to help move guys out of this? And what's that kind of trajectory look like?
Yeah, so the first thing that's coming to mind is like what the foundations of health. Like, is this person getting sleep? Yeah, I get it. Like when you have a young kid, a young child, like maybe they don't sleep as well. right? And that's something that's going to change. It's hard to get through. But if people are sleeping through the night in your house, what is your sleep like? Are you going to bed early enough? Like, are you getting enough sleep? And the sleep that you are getting, is it quality? So oftentimes, like my guys will tell me, like, I'm going to bed at like 11:30 or 12. I'm like, why? You're home at 4. Like your
What are
kid,
some of the reasons you
yeah,
get for why they're going to bed late?
doom scrolling is such a big one. And they go to bed, or not even go to bed. They stay downstairs when their partner goes upstairs, and they are on Instagram, or they're on YouTube, or and they're scrolling, or they're just it's mainly it's mainly like screen distraction. And I kind of chalk it up to I I learned this term called revenge time, and it's time that you spend at the end of the night when no one's around, that you take time for yourself, and you're like, which is fine. Taking time for yourself is okay, but like, why don't we do something more productive and supportive of your health instead of just mindlessly scrolling on the infinite scroll?
Hmm.
And so that's a big one. Um, that one I would say is the most common reason why guys are not going to bed early.
So
It's
it's not that they're
that.
actually working late. It's
No.
this is time for me. It kind of feels good just to like
Hmm.
unwind and not have to think
Yeah.
and just get caught up in scrolling.
Yeah, there's a small like subfraction of men that are definitely like working late, and they're burning the candle at both ends. But that we have to dissect what else happens during the day. Like why do you have to be working until midnight? Like, you have 8 hours during the day. And anyways, that's a big conversation to have with those guys. But focusing on the foundations of health is going to be oftentimes the biggest movers of people's health. Sleep. How is that going? What are they eating throughout the day? Like, are they just like going to Starbucks 3 times a day, and eating, Danishes, or are they having actually like protein rich meals? And so we dissect that, because the food that we intake is going to affect your energy, which is going to affect your productivity, which is going to affect your mood. And maybe they don't need to work all the way to midnight, and they could be more productive during the day if they just had the energy, right? And so that's also a
So
big part of it.
so sleep, nutrition, what
Mhm.
would be like the other kind of big foundations?
Yeah, you can probably guess it's physical activity.
Yeah.
And like, the common conversation I have is, you don't have to go to the gym to be physically active. Like, you don't have to do that. If you want to, if you like enjoy going to the gym, you enjoy strength training at the gym, then great, do that if it's going to get you moving. But like, setting intentional time to move is so rewarding. Like, walking your kids to school instead of driving them, if that's an option in your community. Um, Going for a bike ride with your kids on the weekend, even doing 10 to 15 minutes of stretching per day can show benefits in mental health. Like, absolutely.
Hmm.
So, physical activity, if I could put it in a hierarchy, I would put strength training at the top. The next one would be aerobic activity. Actually, the best combination would be aerobic and strength training. But if you're going to choose one, start with strength training, add in some more aerobic training, like cycling, walking, or running. Man, it can work absolute wonders in people's lives. It's crazy.
I have my own take on this, but I'm curious to get yours. Um, what is there a tipping point for like how much exercise in a week that makes a big difference?
Mhm. So if we're looking at benefits, so cardiovascular disease here. Okay, let's talk about that for a second, because that's a real marker of longevity. Recommendations are 150 minutes of moderate exercise or 75 minutes of intense exercise per week.
Yeah, it's not much.
Right. So it's not that much. Like,
Yeah.
and so, well, let's break that down a little bit more. So what's moderate exercise? That's like zone 2, 3, if you have a Garmin watch. It's not that much effort. It's at a level where you're exercising, but you can still keep a conversation. Right.
Right.
So that's moderate activity. Intense activity is obviously higher. Um, and so what I'm trying to do and trying to impart on my patients and my followers is like every day, try to do something intentional. This is if you are not doing anything and you need to make a change and you don't know where to start. Just every day, try to do something intentional. It doesn't have to be long. It could be 5 minutes to start. 5 minute workouts. I did that for like 6 months. It was awesome. I'm now doing 15-minute workouts. That's what I do is like at least 15 minutes per day. I aim for 5 days a week. Right? If I could do 7, that'd be great. But sometimes I just do other things and forget. So is there a tipping point? It's going to be different for everybody because someone that is incredibly sedentary, that it needs to lose weight, like any exercise is going to be beneficial for them. Someone that is doing, CrossFit or CrossFit like 5 days a week and is tired, maybe CrossFit is not the answer. Maybe those high intensity interval training style workouts are actually depleting you further. And then I'm not saying don't do them, but let's dial them back, maybe add in some other restorative type exercise like walking or like yoga or stretching or something like that. So that's I feel like it's such an individual thing,
Yeah.
like because
So dependent on each person and where they're at that stage. The
for
re-
sure.
the reason I bring it up is I feel like I found like I've always been pretty active. There's definitely I was just doing more home workouts and stuff like that. But once I started going to a gym that did programming for me, it was CrossFit. But it was once I hit about 4 hours a week of that, of like that more intense, like I found like a huge boost in my mood and energy
Nice.
compared to some of the home workouts I was doing. And for me, I don't know, it just felt like that was a personal tipping point with like what I was doing. I was kind of maintaining, and that was a different level of like stress management and like some of the benefits that come with exercise or endorphins or whatever was happening for me.
Yeah,
But that
I love
was
it.
pretty key. But something you touched on that I want to loop back to was uh, you might be working out a bunch and tired and depleted.
Hmm.
And I'm curious about some of the more counterintuitive things where somebody thinks they're doing everything right and think they have it nailed, but it's actually counterproductive or um, kind of like a sneakier hidden thing that people aren't aware of, or things that people think they have nailed down. Then they'll come to you and be like, "Oh, I've got this under wraps," but they really actually don't.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, okay. So one that I see often is like I ask them, tell me about what you eat. And they're like, it's fine, we eat healthy. I'm like, okay, great. Tell me like what is the content of the food that you're having? So this is what where people think like I'm doing fine, but maybe they're not eating enough. Like that's a one that kind of we don't really suspect. It's like, are
So
you
that's a
actually eating
common one is
enough?
that people aren't actually eating enough.
Yeah, yeah. They're like, I'm tired all the time, right? I'm tired all the time, but I'm not losing weight. This is a common thing that I see, and it's because people are super stressed out, and so the hormones are keeping them kind of like the hormones are keeping them from not losing weight, but they're tired because but they're under fueling. So it's a really interesting combination. We have to like kind of dissect that a bit and work on stress adaptation, but also work on content and volume of food. And so once you start like giving yourself the permission to eat a little bit more, and then you get the energy back, then you can adapt to the stress, right? And then body composition can also change there too. So this like idea of not eating enough, it is more common. Like I'm surprised.
Hmm.
So then we have to like think like, okay, well, how do you track it, and do you want to track it, or is that making it complex? And anyways, that's a really interesting one.
Yeah, I know when I've been stressed, I lose my appetite. I know some people
Right.
stress eat. I've had the opposite where I like in burnout or overwhelm, I'm just like anxious and stomach ties up and I'm not hungry at all.
Hmm.
Um What is stress adaptation?
Yeah, that's a great segue to like, so stress adaptation, I've stopped saying stress management because I'm like, you're not really, it's hard to manage your stress sometimes, the stress coming at you. And so if you kind of separate out, if you make stress a physical thing, it's easier to think about. So if you make your financial stress something that worries you into a physical thing, it's coming at you, right? And then you also have like toxic relationships, maybe, or you have deadlines or traffic or whatever it is. We need a way to adapt to those things that we can't control. Okay. Yes, we can control like financials and stuff, but there's some other aspects of life you cannot control. And so what we need to do is change the way we perceive them and also build ourselves up mentally and physically in a way that we can adapt to those things. And so, again, coming back to those foundational patterns, if someone is not sleeping well and is tired all the time, you can imagine how they deal with those stressful things. Like they just might internalize it. They might get overwhelmed even more. They don't have the motivation or the courage to like tackle those projects. And so I've changed my language around stress to say stress adaptation because it puts the focus on building yourself up more instead of trying to change all these things, which is a stress in itself. And I've been finding that's actually quite useful for people when their mindset changes around stress. And like, I never tell anyone like, oh yeah, don't stress about it. 'Cause that's not very helpful. But let's do some things to help you adapt to those stresses and deal with them at the same time. It's not easy work. It's simple, but it's just not easy.
What
Very frustrating.
what does that look like for you? Because you're an
Mhm.
entrepreneur, running your own business, you've got young kids. Do you have some examples of what that looks like in practice for you and maybe some of your stories around dealing with stress and overwhelm?
Yeah, I definitely have some stories that I can share about that for sure. I think now, as like a dad of three, who's running our own business, so I have a practice, my wife has a practice. I feel like I am definitely more equipped now to handle the stresses coming at us. And so we have good people on our team. So we have a good accountant and we have a bookkeeper that we can consult with. And oftentimes like financial stresses are big stresses for people. And so we have good people there. We pay for it, yes, but also it's better than us doing it and figuring it out. We have a cleaner that comes to our house and cleans for like every 2 weeks. It's shockingly dirty by 2 weeks. Um, and we could do it, but also it's a big job and it's not easy when you have kids. Like
Hmm.
they're in there. The other things that I prioritize is sleep. Absolutely. Like we are in bed by 9:30 every night. Like both of us, because our kids are up early. So if we don't have that restorative sleep, our day looks unpleasant. It's just not fun. Like we just feel terrible. The two other things that are coming to mind right now are things that I prioritize is I really limit alcohol weekly. Like I think I might have less than one drink per week right now. And the reason I do that is that I'm finding it really affects my mood the next day. I become a little bit more anxious, maybe a little bit more short with kids and my partner. And then the last thing is exercise. So right now I'm in the middle of a 30-day challenge where I'm doing at least 25 days of intentional exercise in this 30-day period. And having that goal has been so great because it's forcing me to put time aside for myself and to work on my physical health. And it just feels really, really good. Like I feel stronger as a person, like physically stronger, which makes me feel more confident. and makes me feel more optimistic.
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, as you know too, like we don't have a paycheck that's consistent, right? Like it's different from month to month, like what we make usually. So when we're having like slower weeks, I go, no problem. I know how to fix this. And like it's shocking to me that my mindset changes so quickly when I'm not exercising and I'm like kind of sedentary and just kind of in a funk. But
Hmm.
now like I'm consistent. I feel strong. I feel confident. And I feel like I know the answer. I'm gonna figure it out and we're gonna be okay. Like it's a really great, like resilient feeling that I get when I'm consistently moving my body.
Well, I think too, when I'm exercising more, 'cause I exercise in the morning, I have to go to bed at a certain time.
Mm-hmm.
I eat, like, there's just like, it sets off a chain of reactions because of the one thing. And I could totally see that happening with like the guys you're working with too. It's like, get
Mm-hmm.
one thing and like, oh, it's a win. And like, it's a bit of a flywheel with working on the next thing and how things change. I'm curious about some of the, like, you started to talk about the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. So maybe getting
Mm-hmm.
a bit more into your story. What have you found to be most challenging as a dadpreneur?
Yeah, that's a loaded question for sure. The first thing comes to mind, the first thing that comes to mind is like connection with like kids and spouse. Like I find is like the first thing that comes to mind. Um, and how like the stress and pressure of owning a business and like seeking out business, that has been straining on relationships. Like in the house, right? Like with my kids and with my wife. Like it's been hard. Like there's a lot of noise there, a lot of pressure, a lot of noise. But
So when you say a
you
lot
know,
of pressure and noise,
mm,
what do you
sorry,
mean by that?
when I say a lot of pressure and noise, I mean like where are the patients coming from? Like what do we need to do in order to get more patients? There's things that come up where unexpected costs come up, or difficult patient care comes up, or difficult customer relations come up. And that is like we own a business together. And so there's a lot of crosstalk, right? And we talk about business often and we try to keep it to a certain meeting during the week, but that's hard too to commit to that.
Yeah.
Um, so when I say noise, I mean there's a lot of like thoughts and data coming into my mind that are not said out loud, which takes away your ability to connect with someone. And having a phone doesn't help that situation either, because there's notifications going off and checking emails and that kind of stuff. We've been definitely trying to use our phone less around our kids, which is a whole nother conversation about paying attention and being present. Um, One thing I wanted to really talk about on this point was that feeling of building physical strength to increase my confidence is similar to working on the strength of a relationship. When that relationship is stronger, then the stresses that are coming to put pressure on that relationship
Hmm.
are going to be managed differently. I find that really, really prevalent right now, for sure. Because like that's one thing that I've been trying to do is like really, or my wife and I both are trying to be more intentional with our time together and be more open with our communication and have harder conversations which make our relationship stronger. And any of those pressures that come along, we can deal with them way more efficiently and confidently. That's been really positive.
What does that look like? I think it's like, in theory, I'm like, yep, get it that you're strengthening relationships, but
Mhm.
what does that look like in practice on a daily, weekly level?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So one thing that we've started doing is like committing to a weekly evening together. Like people call them date nights, we call them date nights, call them whatever you want there. But one thing that I did recently was I made a note in my phone and I was like, okay, date night Saturday, what type of food do you want to eat? And I put down options. I put like activity, put down options like play crib on the back patio, do a home improvement project, or like watch a show or whatever. And so all she's got to do is open that note, check the boxes, and then we know what we're doing, right? And there's some other things in there too, but that has been really helpful because it's intentional time. And
Hmm.
it's like an intentional, what's the word? It's an intentional like offering basically from me to her. And and that's her love language. One of her love languages is acts of service. And so doing that and putting the energy into that is really beneficial for sure. So that's one way. The other way is like picking the right time to talk about business stuff. And so what I've started doing is like writing down in a separate area, like on a note or on a Google Doc, things that we need to talk about for our business. And then we have a time set aside to specifically talk about those things. So I'm not going to ask her about scheduling patients halfway through bedtime. Like that's not efficient, which I
Yeah,
sometimes did.
I could
Like,
see that being tough because it's front of
mhm,
mind. It pops into your head. The person's right there. You could just
yeah,
ask or try and deal with it. But
yeah,
then
exactly.
there's a lot of a bleed with work coming into the house or
Mhm.
into family time.
Yeah, for sure. So those are the kind of the things that are coming up for me when you say like, what does it look like in practice?
Yeah. Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
but I like this analogy. It's like you're building up your body, you're stress testing your body
Mhm.
physically, and that gives you confidence to handle things. But I think there's also that discipline and practice of like how can you strengthen your relationships all the time so that when something comes up, you're better equipped. And I think that's like a big part of resiliency is how can
Mhm.
you proactively address stuff so that when the battles come, you're kind of prepared for it and you've built up,
Mhm.
if it was relationships, you've built up trust because that's like, I think that's the critical part, trust and communication. On the physical side, it's like, yeah, your body's in shape and you're healthy for when things come at you.
Mhm.
What about on the kid side of things? Like a lot of the guys
Mhm.
you're working with have kids. I don't know where I'm going with this question, but I'm assuming there's some unique things that you're seeing them be challenged with that's unique to being a dad that is maybe different from people who don't have kids. And maybe there's not. Maybe it's just like it's just the volume gets turned up on certain things because you have kids.
Mhm. Yeah, I think the volume of I feel like the word overwhelm is coming up a lot in this conversation, or the feeling of overwhelm is I find more prevalent in dads that have kids. They say stress, but what I see is it's overwhelm.
So they say stress. What are the other things that they're saying? What they see or feel?
Hmm. They are feeling annoyed they're feeling annoyed quicker with their kids and their spouse. They are like shorter with them, like more irritable. They're obviously tired. Uh, and physically, they are not like they used to be. Okay, like they're in in their like sexual prowess, I should say. They're not like they used to be. And then also their bodies are not like they used to be when they were really physically active, early 20s, like in high school even. Like someone said to me the other day, like, oh yeah, my libido is not like I was when I'm 18. I was like, well, yeah, I mean, you're 42. So that's a lot of time and a lot of changes happening. Not to saying that a libido or someone with a 42-year-old can't have the libido of an 18-year-old. It's just there's a
Hmm.
lot of change that happens in there that has caused this to happen or caused this libido to come down. So there's a lot of talk about how, yes, kids take up a lot of time and effort. That's why they're here. Like
Yeah.
they're
It's kind
not
of the
old
point.
enough. Yeah, they're not old enough to function on their own, right? So this is our job is to
Yeah.
help them be like to help them grow and develop. And it's a short time. Like if you put your life on a spectrum, like this is a very short time of your entire life. Is this dadhood of young kids? Like mine's 6.5. That means he's going to be 18 and a half in 12 years. And he's already burned through six of them. Like that 6 years has gone by so fast. You know what I mean? Like, so
Do you
now,
do you feel that
so
that overarching kind of bigger picture existential part adds to the overwhelm for people? Like there's like the
yeah.
day-to-day minutia of overwhelm because there's just
Mhm.
more people, more things, more variables. But yeah, as we're talking a lot, I'm
Mhm.
wondering like how much that like compression of time and pressure of what we expect and what we want to do in that amount of time is kind of like lingering.
Yeah, that's a good point, Five. That could be stressing people out more than I think. Um, what I'm trying to get across is I'm trying to give guys permission to spend more time away from work, basically. Like I want people to feel like it's okay to sit down with your kids and not work. Like kids they don't see the money that you're bringing in. They just see if you're present and if they're playing with you or if they're engaging with you or you're engaging with them. So I certainly don't mean to stress people out when I say that this is only a short amount of time. That is going to be a huge piece of overwhelm. But um, yeah, that's a really good point, Five. Thanks for bringing that up.
Well, and like I think what's interesting too is like there's this overarching theme as well as you just called out of permission to not work.
Hmm.
And I had this experience 2 weeks ago. I had a gap on my calendar, no calls booked, and I could have just done some focus work, but was kind of scattered that week and was kind of all over the place. And I actually went for a walk in the woods
Oh,
and set
nice.
my hammock up. I spent 3 hours, 3.5 hours by myself, just went for a walk, set up my hammock, chilled, and it was really helpful to my business. I tried not to make it about like, I'm going to do this outdoor like chill session and then I'm going to have all this clarity, but like a bunch of clarity did come from it. And I think it actually
Hmm.
helped me be productive. But like, it was really hard sitting at my computer to detach from it and go do that because it felt very selfish and it felt very unproductive
Hmm.
until I was actually in the woods.
Right.
And I think there's such an ingrained culture of value placed on work.
Hmm.
And that's great. But I think it's to the point where I'm noticing myself working when it's not actually that productive. Like the busyness
Right.
that feels like I'm doing stuff. ChatGPT's been like a great little treat to be like, I'm doing stuff. Like I'm asking stuff. I'm like going back and forth and like creating some like
Yeah.
something for a blog or website. And I'm like, really? Like, is this actually helping me? So I don't know. There's that busyness thing, and I'm not sure what my question is, but it's something around like how do you help men with kids give themselves permission to step back from work when so much of our identity is tied to providing?
Hmm.
Or how have you battled with that tension?
Yeah. So I've seen the change in my kids when I'm more present with them. Like you talked earlier about like developing trust in a relationship. And I've seen it like so clearly on both ends where I haven't connected with my kids much in a period of time because I've been whatever busy or something else has been going on, and the relationship isn't as connected, and the kids are their behavior is different. They are more angry or they're more irritable or whatever. And then I step back and I spend more quality time with them, like present time. I'm talking like phone away and just playing with them or being silent with them while they do something. And that connection comes back and their behavior comes back. It's absolutely incredible. Um, so that's something that I try to do is that's the reason why I give myself permission to not work sometimes. Um, for other people, like for other men, it's obviously the story might be a bit different because their job is demanding and the time isn't as flexible as mine. I what I try to do with those guys is I try to like help them prioritize their lives, I guess you could say. Like where does family sit as far as priority goes, and where does work sit, and where do you sit? And I don't have a very good process by doing that, but the answers are always the same. Like, well, my family is number one. Okay, that's great. And then you're usually number two, and then work is usually number three. And oftentimes that's all they need is like, oh, dang, like I do need to prioritize them more. And so that gap is then that's where we start filling the gap between, yes, I need to prioritize them more, but how do we do it? And that's where we have to go like, okay, we need to like have a hard stop on work for X amount of time or at a certain time of day. I just had a conversation with someone about something called an arrow box. Have you heard about an arrow box before? It's
No, I don't think so.
it's like a cell phone box,
Oh,
basically.
yeah.
You like put your phone in the box and you close it. I don't know what, like, could it be any box, but whatever. They put the cell phone in the box, and that's what really helps him with presence in his house from 4 to 8:30. So when he gets home and then until the kids go to bed.
Yeah.
And so that's one tool that you can use is like a something like that to put your devices away and bring distraction away.
Yeah.
And that could just be as easy as leaving your phone on the island downstairs while you put the kids to bed upstairs.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, like how do we give men permission to not work? That's hard. That's a really difficult one because everyone's different, obviously, but I find the prioritizing the priority um, exercise is really helpful. And guys don't usually see it until they act on it. Okay, so they don't usually see it until they see the results. So here's like a personal like reflection on that. My priorities, obviously family, but I'm up there too. Like I prioritize my health and my family's health. Because if I don't have any health, then I can't help them. And
Hmm.
then everything else kind of falls down below. And so since doing that, I see why we're prioritizing those things. Like I feel good and my family is functioning well as a unit. And then business comes after that. And like business is going well too. Um, and so living the experience or
You almost need to like create your own evidence
yeah,
that
creating
it works.
that's a really great point. A really great way of saying it. Creating your own evidence. It just makes me want to do more of it.
Yeah.
It
And it
makes me like
becomes
never want to change.
becomes a flywheel, I think.
Yeah.
Watching the time here. What's maybe one thing that you do differently than other entrepreneur dads? Or things that maybe you think you're doing differently than other entrepreneur dads that they might benefit from doing. It might be something specific to like your work as a naturopathic doctor and some of the insights that you have with that, or it might just be a family system. I'm always curious because we don't get to see
Mhm.
under the hood of what other people do. Yeah, I was curious if there's something that pops up for you of, yeah, I think I'm doing this a bit differently than other people.
Yeah. So I find in my industry, like yeah. So the one thing that's coming to mind here is my networking approach is, I feel like, is a bit different than what other people are doing. And so I'm in private healthcare. Okay, so yeah, I'm a naturopathic doctor, but I'm also a bit of a salesperson, right? I gotta like sell myself, which I find really difficult. I think a lot of healthcare practitioners really have that problem, is selling themselves. And so what I've changed in my networking approach is, if I do a meeting or if I do like some sort of event, I've changed my approach from delivering a message to get patients, like delivering a message to get patients. I've changed that to developing a relationship and a connection with someone. So I've been finding that when I do that, then people can see me as a person. And so they're purchasing from people instead of like a product. Like it's funny, like we do a meet and greet with every patient that comes in, and I go like, "Who sent you?" And it's usually a
Hmm.
friend. Like, "Oh, and I'm going to tell you about how I practice." And the patient sometimes say like, "Yeah, sure, whatever. Just I've heard you're really good at it." They basically book with me based on character, and I find that I've been really reaping the benefits of that, and like connecting with people in the community. And oftentimes, I don't really even talk about what I do, but then they find out and they're like, "Oh, so this person can help me, not this naturopathic doctor can help me. It's just like this person." I've been finding that really helpful, and it's developing like longer lasting patient doctor relationships, which I'm like really proud of because I have like really great retention in my practice.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, I think it's like my networking style. It's different.
You're just being a good human.
Yeah,
It's like
right.
it's just the funny thing about business and like it's lessons that I've had to learn over and over again.
Mhm,
It's like, oh yeah, it is that simple. Just be a good person and connect with somebody on a human level
mhm.
and you build trust
Yeah,
and
right.
things happen. And like, I don't know, I've definitely gone down the rabbit holes of this kind of marketing or that kind of marketing. And it's like, so much of it is just trust. How do you build trust with
Mhm,
somebody? And there's different ways you can do that. And one of them is connecting with them on a human level and
mhm.
developing a relationship.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
it's so true. Like my most engaging posts on Instagram are the ones that I talk about what I did that day, like my human experiences. Like, yeah, I love evidence-based medicine, and I love doing like IV therapy, but people are like, okay, that's cool. But like what I said the other day was, um, I said something about making coffee in the morning, and it was like I got comments all over the place.
yeah,
It was just so funny, like such an interesting human post.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. Anyways, that's kind of how I feel like I'm different as far as an entrepreneur goes.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I think there's going to be more of a movement to slow. Like I have this saying, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And
Mm.
that slower time, trusting, like there's just everything's so fast right now. Like that actually is different, that approach.
Mhm.
And I think that is a differentiator. And I'm curious for you, just to wrap us up
Yeah.
here. Let's say you get to watch this 6 months from now.
Mhm.
What's something that you want to remind yourself of? What's a message to yourself to that you feel like it'd be important for you to hear 6 months from now?
Yeah, that's a good one. I would have to say the conversation we had around strengthening relationships and how doing that will help you adapt to stresses as a family unit. I think that is always a good reminder. Hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to take that one as well.
So,
Like just that analogy, because I don't think we intentionally or proactively look at how we can go about that. It's always like, oh, something's wrong in the relationship. What do I do? That reactive
yeah,
jerk, knee jerk reaction,
yeah,
like, oh, something's wrong. I got to fix it.
yeah.
It's like
What do I do, Chet?
preventative maintenance with your car. Do it with your
Yeah,
health. Why not do it with your relationships?
yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Like, yeah, absolutely. And yes, it makes us able to handle stress differently, but also it improves happiness in your house. Like it improves like physical connection with your partner. Like, and everyone wins. Like, it's yeah, I'm constantly surprised at how interconnected our aspects of health are from person to person, like how our social health and how our mental health affects our physical health. Like I'm just constantly surprised
Yeah.
and impressed.
Well, where can somebody find you if they're curious about working with you or learning more about the work that you do?
Yeah, really easy. You can find me online, www.drrorygibbons.com, or you can follow me on Instagram and the handle is just at Dr. Rory Gibbons. And I'm pretty active on Instagram. I'm trying to be more active on Instagram, not so much on Facebook, but that's where you can find me.
Yeah. Thanks so
All
much for
right.
coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Fife. I appreciate the time and the conversation. And like, I love these conversations because it provides reflection for myself, and I always learn something
Yeah.
from it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you bet.